A teacup sits on the table. The president knows it contains poison, but the colonel urging him to drink has no idea the trap has already failed. In 2023, President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso faced an assassination attempt so sophisticated it involved foreign intelligence, coded messages, and a toxic substance labeled VXT42. But his survival came down to something remarkably simple: an anonymous tip warning him about his tea. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. What if your life depended on a single message from someone you'd never meet? For President Ibrahim Traoré, this wasn't a hypothetical question. The note appeared on his desk without explanation, just hours before a scheduled military meeting. Its message was brief but specific. Be careful of the tea that would be served. Traoré stared at the paper, turning it over in his hands. No signature, no indication of who might have risked their safety to warn him. Just a warning about tea, something so ordinary it seemed almost absurd. Yet in the complex landscape of Burkina Faso's politics, even the mundane could become deadly. The president faced an immediate decision. Should he trust this mysterious warning, cancel the meeting, announce the threat? Each option carried its own risks. Ignoring it could be fatal if genuine. Reacting dramatically might alert conspirators while embarrassing him if it proved false. Traoré chose a third path. He would attend the meeting as planned, but remain vigilant. He informed only his most trusted security officer, instructing him to observe carefully but not intervene unless signaled. The president needed to see who might be involved, especially since the warning suggested someone in his inner circle had betrayed him. The mental preparation for such a meeting must have been extraordinary. Traoré reviewed who would attend, considering each face, each relationship. Someone he knew, perhaps someone he trusted, wanted him dead. Yet he would sit across from them, maintain conversation, and pretend complete ignorance of their intentions. This strategic decision to proceed, despite knowing the danger, transformed the military meeting into a complex chess match. Traoré wasn't just attending a meeting. He was walking into a trap with his eyes open, hoping to catch the trappers. This approach would allow him to identify not just immediate threats, but potentially uncover the broader conspiracy. The morning of the meeting arrived. As Traoré's vehicle approached the military base, his senses heightened. Every guard, every salute, every face at the gate underwent instant assessment. Were they involved? Did they know? The usual security protocols felt different now, both protection and possibly part of the threat. Walking into the conference room, Traoré noted each person present. Some he had known for years, others were newer additions to his military command. He cataloged subtle details, unusual body language, unexpected attendees, even the seating arrangement. The anonymous tip had transformed his perception, making every element of the familiar setting potential evidence. The warning had arrived just in time, giving him barely enough hours to prepare, but not so many that conspirators might notice a change in his behavior. As Traoré took his seat at the head of the table, his calm exterior masked complete alertness. His eyes moved constantly, watching doors, hands, and most specifically, whoever would serve the tea. The stage was set for confrontation. President Traoré, armed only with warning and wit, was ready to face whoever had decided his time as leader had reached its final hours. When a familiar ritual becomes a deadly weapon, instinct becomes your strongest ally. The military meeting began like any other, officers in pressed uniforms settling into their chairs. But President Traoré immediately noticed two unusual elements: Colonel Yaya Konate, seated closer to him than normal, and an unfamiliar face, a young man in server's uniform who kept adjusting his collar. The server moved between the officers, pouring tea with hands that trembled slightly. When he reached Traoré, Colonel Konate suddenly became animated, gesturing toward the steaming cup. "You must try this tea, Mr. President. It's a special blend from the eastern provinces." Traoré observed the server's eyes darting toward Konate, seeking approval. The colonel's insistence was out of character. Military meetings weren't typically occasions for tea recommendations. The president lifted the cup, bringing it close enough to his lips to appear natural while ensuring not a drop passed them. A psychological chess match unfolded in real time. Traoré engaged in conversation about regional security while watching Konate's gaze repeatedly fix on the teacup. The colonel grew visibly anxious as minutes passed without the president drinking. Traoré maintained his composure, asking questions about troop movements while mapping the room's reactions. After 20 minutes of discussion, Traoré deliberately placed the cup down on the table. The small action sent ripples through the room. Konate shifted in his seat, his fingers tapping against his knee. "Is something wrong with the tea, Mr. President?" Konate asked, his voice slightly higher than normal. Traoré smiled. "You know, I always find it interesting how many things can hide inside something as small as a cup." Konate swallowed hard. "That's the beauty of tea, sir. Or the danger." The president turned to face Konate directly. "Do you trust this server, Colonel?" "I don't believe I've seen him before." Before Konate could answer, Traoré addressed the server. "Since the colonel recommends this tea so highly, perhaps you could demonstrate its quality by drinking from my cup." The server froze, panic washing across his face. I cannot, sir." "Why not?" Traoré asked, his voice calm but unwavering. The silence that followed was broken by Traoré's signal to his security detail. They moved with practiced efficiency, pinning the server against the wall and searching him. From his sock, they removed a small vial labeled VXT42, a neurotoxin that would have killed within minutes. Konate's role in the plot became undeniable through his eager insistence about the tea and his revealing comment about danger. As security surrounded him, the other officers watched in disbelief. The colonel who had led troops into battle had betrayed not just his president, but his country. As Konate was handcuffed, Traoré ordered the room sealed. "No one leaves. This meeting has just begun." The evidence would need careful handling, and the questions would need precise answers. Who had supplied the poison? Who else was involved? And what was the larger objective? The investigation was already taking shape in the president's mind as the conspirators were led away. Behind every assassin stands a mastermind, and this one left a trail just waiting to be found. When investigators searched the tea server's belongings, they discovered a small notebook filled with coded entries. Names appeared as numbers, dates as color combinations, and payment amounts disguised as grocery lists. One name appeared more than any other: Lash Shakal, or sometimes written as Lee Shakal. The notebook transformed the investigation from catching the immediate threat to hunting the person pulling the strings. President Traoré authorized a specialized cyber team to trace connections between the server, Colonel Konate, and this mysterious Shakal figure. They began with the burner phones found in the server's apartment. These disposable phones had been carefully wiped, but the team recovered fragments of data. One crucial message read, "For the cup tomorrow, he will see nothing." The technical team traced the message origin to within 2 kilometers of the French consulate in Ouagadougou. This wasn't just a local plot. By analyzing satellite pings and cellular tower data, the cyber experts narrowed the final signal location to a luxury apartment building in Ouaga 2000, an upscale area housing diplomats and international workers. The building lacked security cameras in its hallways, a detail investigators found suspiciously convenient. A quiet surveillance operation formed around the building. Soldiers disguised as fruit sellers positioned themselves on surrounding streets. Others posed as delivery workers, observing comings and goings. One team member gained access to the building as a maintenance worker, placing tiny cameras in hallway corners and air vents. After 3 days of surveillance, they identified Alexandre Morel, a retired French intelligence officer with known operations across West Africa. Voice analysis matched recordings to phone intercepts. confirming Morel was Le Chacal himself. The foreign connection explained the sophisticated nature of the assassination attempt. Rather than move immediately, Traoré chose patience. He announced a high-level dinner at the presidential villa with carefully selected diplomats and military officials on the guest list. The announcement spread through official channels, knowing the information would reach Morel. The dinner was elaborately prepared, but with hidden security measures throughout. Guards posed as kitchen staff, waiters wore bulletproof vests beneath their uniforms, and food tasters checked every dish before service. Snipers positioned on nearby rooftops while security teams monitored every entrance. As the dinner began, Traoré's calculated patience paid off. An unfamiliar waiter appeared with a tray of drinks, a second assassin attempting to finish what the first had failed to accomplish. The pattern repeated itself, confirming the president's suspicions about Morel's methods. Throughout the operation, Traoré maintained remarkable composure. He participated in dinner conversations while tracking the movements of each server. He laughed at diplomatic jokes while watching for signs of threat. This calculated patience had brought the trap full circle, setting the stage for the final confrontation with both the immediate threat and its mastermind. The hunter becomes the hunted when preparation meets opportunity. At the presidential dinner, glasses clinked and diplomats exchanged pleasantries while Traoré's security team monitored every movement in the room. The president engaged with guests, his attention seemingly focused on diplomatic matters, while his peripheral vision tracked the service staff. When an unfamiliar waiter approached with a tray of champagne flutes, Traoré noted the man's stiff posture and overly rehearsed movements. The waiter offered drinks to several guests before approaching the president's table. As he extended the tray toward Traoré, the president looked directly into the man's eyes. "That's an interesting watch you're wearing," Traoré said calmly. "Swiss-made, I believe." Unusual for someone on a server's salary. The waiter's hand trembled slightly, causing the champagne to ripple in the glasses. This small detail confirmed Traoré's suspicions. With a subtle hand signal, security personnel materialized from their positions throughout the room. The fake waiter reached toward his jacket, but two guards pinned his arms before he could retrieve whatever weapon he carried. A search revealed a syringe filled with the same neurotoxin from the first attempt. The entire seizure happened so smoothly that most dinner guests remained unaware of the danger. Within minutes, a separate team launched a coordinated raid on Morel's apartment, catching Le Chacal as he monitored communications from his handlers. Traoré chose to handle the matter without public announcements. No press conferences, no dramatic statements. The second assassin disappeared into military custody, and Morel was quietly removed from his apartment. This wasn't about creating headlines, but about sending a message to those watching from the shadows. Attempts against Burkina Faso's leadership would be met with silent, effective justice. Morel's capture carried significant implications. His presence in Ouagadougou pointed to foreign intelligence networks operating freely within the country's borders. Documents seized from his apartment revealed connections to resource extraction companies and regional power brokers determined to maintain influence in the resource-rich nation. A week after the events, Traoré visited the National Military Academy. Standing before cadets in crisp uniforms, he placed a teacup on a small pedestal at the front of the room. "This cup," Traoré told them, "contained enough poison to throw our nation into chaos. Remember that threats to our sovereignty come in many forms, often disguised as something ordinary and familiar." The second assassination attempt had succeeded in its primary mission, not to kill the president, but to capture the mastermind behind the plot. Morel's network was dismantled, documents seized, and communications traced back to their origins. As Traoré concluded his address to the cadets, his final words acknowledged reality. "This won't be the last attempt," he said, gesturing to the teacup. "But now, you understand, our greatest defense is not our weapons, but our vigilance." That teacup now stands on a pedestal at Burkina Faso's National Military Academy. What once held poison has become a reminder that vigilance saves lives and nations. Its placement there wasn't Traoré's idea alone, but a request from military officials who understood its significance. Traoré's survival preserved more than his leadership. It maintained Burkina Faso's independence at a moment when outside forces sought to regain control of the resource-rich nation. His words to the cadets capture everything at stake. This cup almost ended my life not because of the tea inside, but because of the trust I placed in the wrong hands.